I like Arizona's running back room a great deal. Is it the best in the conference? Probably not. But guess what? I will take that quarterback and running back combination over anybody. What say you, Jason Shear?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Arizona has the best running back room in the conference. And anytime you have the best player at a position, it's usually you. So Oklahoma State, Kansas has a really good room, but like you mentioned, like with Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon's awesome. Alan Bowman is not, right? So Kansas to me is probably the closest, but obviously I'm taking Fafita and Arizona's running backs together over any team in the conference.
It is a backfield grade, my friends. That's where we are at. Okay, now let's talk about these. Arizona came in 5th. I think that these are, I backed the A and I put Arizona number 1. Here's my case for Arizona number 1. First of all, I believe that you have the best quarterback in the conference. We're going to get to all of this in a second. If you want to take somebody else, fine. But I will definitely stand with the National Freshman of the Year over a guy who's played one game in Avery Johnson or Bowman, obviously, or Cam Rising, who we don't need to play. Quarterback is, or we don't even know it's going to play. Quarterback is the most important position on the field, Sheer. And Arizona has a stud at quarterback in Noah Fafita.
Yeah, so what it came down to for me was really simple. When you look at the questions, what positions do those questions come at, right?
Right.
So, for instance, Utah, Cam Rising, look, I could change my opinion on Utah 2 games in the season. If Cam Rising shows me that he's healthy and that leg is functional and all that, I'm higher on Utah then than I probably am now, right? Noah Fafita is good. I know Noah Fafita is good. And as I tweeted, I think Arizona has the best quarterback. I think Arizona has the best wide receiver. You can make an argument that Arizona has the best offensive lineman. It's got a top 3 linebacker. Like, I'm perfectly cool with my pick as Arizona finishing first in the conference because the question at quarterback that some teams have is way more vital and important than the question at second cornerback that Arizona has.
And you know what? We had a conversation about this before you put your poll in, and I did convince you of this because you were talking, well, we don't know about Arizona's second cornerback. And I'm like, everybody's got questions, but when you've got a quarterback already, that is a very good thing. Now, listen, when you look at the skill position players on this team, you've obviously Noah Fafita stud. T-Mac stud. You're predicting a breakout year for Montana Lamonius Craig. We will see. But then at running back, the running back room is very, very solid. I would be stunned if the running backs aren't good. And you return 4 or 5 offensive linemen. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm sorry. If you return 4 or 5 offensive linemen, and with the guys that you still have looking at, you have a Polito, you have a Jonah Rodriguez, you have guys like that, the offense should be good, period.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern on offense is actually wide receiver. Obviously, T-Mac is awesome, but someone else needs to step up. And when we're talking about questions, because that's what we're doing, I know you like Malachi Riley, but you still need to see it on the field, right? You still need to see these guys produce. Montana, Riley, Murphy, all those guys need to produce. And losing Jacob Cowing is a big deal. And if these guys produce, I feel much better about it. But until they do, you're going to see teams double T-Mac. Which may or may not work, and in order to lighten that load, someone has to step up.
Somebody's got to step up, but I do believe that there are very good options here. I think they're talented. Now, do they have to show it? Yes. Which brings me to my next point. There are a ton of unknowns on the teams that are ahead of Arizona. First of all, like we talked about, Cam Rising. I don't even know if Cam Rising can walk. I have no clue if this is a Mackenzie Melton situation. Nobody knows. Nobody knows until you're out there. Alex Bowman and Kansas quarterback, very, very good. He's also injury prone. Kansas State quarterback shows a lot of talent. Guess what? He's played one game. Arizona has the best backfield when it comes to this, period. Point blank. No other.
Yeah, and look, and I said this on my podcast last night. But like Anderson, I understand Kansas State fans love him. I get it. He also completed 56% of his passes last year. Right? There's questions. What are you going to do now when those 66 total pass attempts turns to 300? Right? If you're completing 56% of 300 passes, that is not a good number.
Right. It's just
you got to and I realize every fan base is excited about their guys, but there's still questions.
All right, Palmer Hoffman says, what happened to Majon Wright? He is at his 35th different school, I would assume. Okay, now, so the offense, like I said, I put the offensive personnel against any team in the country, period. I mean, not any team. Well,
no, country's
no.
Yeah.
Don't go that far, but in the Big 12. I put it against any team in the Big 12. Now, let's get to the defensive side. I believe that this defense is going to be middle of the pack, and I have no problems with that. And because here's the thing, and I was talking about this with William Brad Ellis yesterday. I look at the starting defense, and I like it. There's like 2 question marks on the starters. Now, the depth we'll get to in just a second. But as far as the defense goes, I am totally cool with the down line. Ty, Trey Smith, Kevon Darton and Chuba May, totally cool with that. Totally cool with that starting down line. What say you, Jason Shearer?
Yeah, I actually think it might be a little better than people think. Darton produced. Chuba May produced, and I realized it was at Davis, but like we saw him during the spring, and he looked good. Barry Anderson at Memphis was good. And I have some questions about the depth at defensive line on the ends, but we know Trey Smith is good. We know Ty is good. I just wish there was a couple guys behind him, but maybe Chase Kennedy steps in and fixes that.
Okay, now we look at the linebackers. Then love Jacob Manu. He is fantastic with Jacob Manu. The question though is who comes after Jacob Manu though. You got Tay Brown obviously, but then I mean, you got a lot of unproven commodities here. And no, Justin Flo, I do not see starting next to Jacob Manu, so we can nip that in the bud. That is a question mark. That is a fair question mark. That linebacker spot next to Jacob Manu.
Yep, that would be the biggest question. There's 2 questions on defense. Number 1, the corner. Number 2, the linebacker. Your hope is that Tay Brown or Kamala step up. That's your hope. One of those guys has to step up and emerge as the very clear leader at that position. If that does not happen, Arizona's probably in some trouble.
And then the secondary, I love the secondary. Outside of the 1 question mark at the boundary corner, listen, you got 3 safeties that can play. I'm figuring that Owen Goss can play as well. You've also got, on the other side, you've got, obviously, Takario Davis, a first-round pick type potential. The question is at that other cornerback spot. Obviously, Demetrius Freeney or Killebrew, whatever the case may be, that's a fair question mark. But when we're looking at the starting defense and basically our 2 question marks are one of the linebackers and another corner, that's not that bad, Skier.
Yeah, and look, again, your hope is Freeney, Killebrew. Who knows? Maybe Goss could play corner. He played some corner at his last spot. I don't like him there, but but I'll say this: they could move Stukes over if they need to, and we know that Stukes isn't awful. And then you put Genesis Smith there or Goss there. Like, there's ways around it. I think there's no way to fix a bad quarterback, right? Now, there's ways to cover up having an average corner.
So again, I do not know. And again, we need to be very clear. We very much like our Big 12 friends around here. Very much like him. I can do without probably Colorado, but outside of that, we like our Big 12 fans. And so we are not besmirching it, but I look at all these teams though, and I don't think it's outlandish at all to say that I'm backing the A on this one, baby. I am backing the A all the way, period, point blank.
Yeah, Mike, I'm with you. Look at you, you're feisty.
I am very feisty today. All right, that's my case. Now, let's talk about some question marks because there are question marks. We are not the we're not the best team in the country yet. But listen, on the defense, honestly, a position that does worry me is that depth on the edges. I'm totally cool with the starters, but what Arizona really had going for them was that you could bring in a multitude of guys. I don't know who those dudes are. At the tackle, I'm totally cool with Isaiah Johnson and Bear Anderson. Totally cool with them backing up on the defensive tackles, but at the 2 end positions, Sheer, not thrilled.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. They need someone else to emerge, right? They need someone out at the end, and clearly they, the problem, or not a problem, however you want to do it, is it's really hard to get a defensive end in the portal. And so, you know, in an ideal world, yeah, one of those guys step up and you're okay.
Now, let's talk about then the other linebacker. All right, we got to talk about Justin Flo. I believe that we need to talk about Justin Flo every single show. There needs to be a segment on Justin Flo. Again, they're 5-2-0 down. You're my guy. You're much smarter than me. I would love to be wrong on this one. But with Flo, we'll believe it when you see it. I also don't think, and I asked a coach who might actually coach him, that I asked him, I said, what about putting Justin Flo at defensive end? And he says, listen, he says, the kid's a freak for sure. And he said it in a good way. He's also 230 pounds. He said when there's a difference between just running at somebody full speed ahead and literally lining up as a Micah Parsons type, he said when he gets engaged with our offensive tackles, guess what? The offensive tackles hold him. He's just not big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to be wrong. Barrett 5-2-0 down.
Flo is one of these situations where you look at his ranking, you look at what he looks like physically, and you just assume he's awesome. But football's also a mental game too, right? Like if Justin Flo was able to drop back into coverage, he'd probably be one of the best linebackers in the country. The problem is he cannot read offenses. I'm just going to say it. He can't do it for whatever reason. So look, maybe something clicks, and if something clicks, shout out to Danny Gonzalez, but it is a very large, we need to see it before we say, oh, Justin Flo is the answer.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see. Yeah, we got to see it. But like I said, with Micah Parsons, let's be honest here. With Micah Parsons, you're talking about the best defensive. You're probably talking about the best defensive player in the NFL. I mean, and Micah Parsons was an absolute stud. I'll put it to you like this: with Micah Parsons, 3 different coaching staffs would have been able to figure out how to use Micah Parsons. Correct, Jir, in college?
Yeah, we need to stop that comparison.
All right, now. But either way, you guys are great. Now we have the Super Snap coming in. Let's see here. Bear Down Cats $4.99. Bear Down from New Jersey will be there at West Virginia and Cincy games. Kick scum devil butt. We will do our best. So, and then at that other cornerback spot, obviously we'll see what transpires here. But like I said, I don't see a ton of weaknesses. I really don't. I feel fairly good about this squad going into Big 12 play. Now, who is the team that you would put at number 2, Sheer? Because I'm not putting Utah at number 2.
I put Kansas at 2.
You put Kansas at 2? Okay, make the case.
I think that if Daniels is healthy, the quarterback situation is obviously really good. I think their running backs are awesome. They have 2 very, very good corners. Look, I realize there's questions about health and all that, but they're good. And if they stay healthy, they're very, very good.
They are very, very good. I go back and forth. I've vacillated between them and Kansas State. I do like Kansas State, and they kind of remind me. Now, listen, roster-wise, they aren't. They're not super similar, but I think they're both kind of at the stage where they are both very good. Listen, with Lance Leopold is a boss. You know exactly what you are getting with him. Same as with Kansas State.